Sony Pictures managed to do the impossible by making not just a great Spider-Man movie, especially after the years of failed attempts of trying to release a high-budget Spider-Man film, but making a highly successful comic book summer blockbuster after the failure of Batman and Robin. And while X-Men is mainly responsible for kickstarting the current landscape of the superhero movie genre, Raimi's first Spider-Man outing served as a superhero movie that managed to embrace the comic book elements of the source material while also being one of the highest grossing movies at the time, and even managing to break box office records by being the highest grossing opening weekend of any movie at the time. With that success comes that sweet brand synergy, and by that I mean those beautiful and highly sought after movie tie-in games. Yeah, I love those times also. The times where every year we would get multiple movie licensed video games about our favorite movies, cartoons, or TV show characters that, while granted most were shit, had a unique charm to them. Especially considering today's games all now want to be the next AAA Game of the Year contender. I think it's nice there was a time that a lot of games were just there to have a fun time and nothing else. Spider-Man is no stranger to this, and you can even say that Spidey has some of the best movie tie-in games in general. Treyarch's first attempt at Spider-Man is no exception, because even though it's outdated in every way now, it's still plenty of fun, and after playing it recently, still managed to be somewhat difficult for me to play. It's not an easy game for me, especially that shocker sequence, but we'll get to that later in the video. Spider-Man the movie game vaguely follows some of the events of the movie, like the death of Uncle Ben, the parade action sequence, and that final bridge fight. However, this game is basically its own alternative version of the story from the movie. In fact, all three games from this trilogy do this to the point where these games feel like another iteration in general. Honestly, this entire trilogy is what movie tie-in games should strive to be. Follow the most important elements of what you're adapting, but expand upon that world and give more context to the world that you're exploring, while also adding characters to build that story from. This game does manage to take some elements from the movie, however, it still finds a way to free itself from the film it's basing it off, and almost feels like a standalone experience, not restraining itself from what it's adapting. Like, yes, the main villain is still Green Goblin, just like it's based off in the movie. Yes, Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe voice their characters. However, many of the story elements from the game is separate from the movie and even expands on the lore that the movie set itself from. This is a trend we see from the rest of this game's trilogy, and I applaud Treyarch for doing this. This story begins with a recap of what the movie provided. Peter gets bitten, he wrestles Bonesaw for money. Uncle Ben ends up dying because of it. However, unlike the movie where Uncle Ben's killer is some random thug, the killer is now part of a gang called the Skull Gang, and this is where we begin the game as we try to look for our uncle's killer.
A carjacker killed an old man earlier today. The killer's a skull. Where is he?
I can't tell you. He killed me.
What makes you think I won't?
Got you on a spike. He's probably in that old shipping warehouse. It's right on the river. That's all I know.
Thanks.
The boss fight for this mission is actually pretty solid. Like, I didn't think it would be this good, and I was even struggling for a bit to beat this bastard. The killer can shoot if I try to get close to him, which does significant damage, by the way. He can dodge my webs at lightning speed. Are we sure this guy isn't a supervillain? And he can even throw flashbangs if I hurt him too much. Like, are we sure we aren't fighting Batman? Anyways, we end up beating him, and just like the movie, he ends up falling to his death.
No, you. Not you.
Stay back! I'm warning you, you psycho!
I could have stopped you at the fight promoter's office. I could have saved Uncle Ben.
From there, we get a scene with Norman Osborn, where it's revealed that they need Spider-Man's blood to continue pursuing their business ventures and to keep the company afloat. This is where we meet the Hunter Killers, which is the video game's own original idea. You can already tell where the differences between the movie and the game start to take shape, as in the movie version, both Peter and Norman transform around the same time. Meanwhile, in the game, Peter looks to have been Spider-Man for a while. The Hunter Killers, I'm not even gonna lie, they are the bane of my existence. These little f***ers messed me up as a kid and nothing has changed. And let me tell you, it only gets worse, because after I beat them, I immediately have to face Shocker, who was with Vulture seemingly leaving a jewelry store that they just robbed. Spidey ignores Vulture for now and decides to go for Shocker instead, a character who is my favorite in the entire trilogy, by the way.
So you must be Quilt Man, Padded Pete, Mr. Triple Ply? Oh, I've got it. The cushion.
I'm the Shocker. I tell you not to forget it, but you won't around long enough to worry about that. Now say goodbye to Mr. Innocent Bystander, sucker.
In my opinion, this Shocker is just so much fun to have around in these games. His boss fights are some of the most fun to complete and is one of the most memorable parts of the game for me. We fight Shocker's goons in Grand Central Station, and then afterwards we run after Shocker in the underground sewers. As we chase Shocker, his men do their best to try and stop me from moving on to the next rooms, and now we have to open doors, switch valves to continue moving, and beat up more goons that stand in our way. This is where we get to the level that got me to rage quit in a game more times than playing Call of Duty with my friends. Even today, I had trouble getting through this level. Shocker is extremely quick, and honestly the controls make it difficult for me to keep up. As soon as I get to him is where the boss fight begins.
Come on, freak. You need to learn a lesson, and Shocker's School of Hard Knocks is now open.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Bro, Shocker is that guy. I mean, first of all, Michael Beatty, who voices Shocker, is my definitive voice for this villain. Every time I look up a picture of the Shocker, his voice immediately pops into my head. His boss fight here is very well designed and is different from our fight with Ben's killer. This time, because of Shocker's blast, we need to be careful from getting too close, so I would shoot him with my webs and throw whatever I got at him. Shocker isn't anywhere near close to Green Goblin or Doc Ock in terms of iconicness, but bro, look at this. This motherfucker can do a tornado with his fucking gauntlets. Put some respect on my boy's name. That being said, we still end up beating him, and we use him to get Vulture's whereabouts. Once Shocker spills the tea, we go straight to the old head who is in the clock tower. Before we fight him, we need to climb our way to the tower, in which Vulture does everything in his power to keep us from getting to him, from throwing grenades to literally burning his entire HQ down.
You're becoming a thorn in my side. Today, you die, Spider-Man!
You know how much hate you need to have in your heart to destroy your own place just to stop someone from getting to you? Anyways, that clearly didn't work as we get to him and then proceed to chase him through the city. Vulture uses everything in the book to try and stop me. He throws projectiles at us and even tries to damage billboards that we need to web up, or else it will fall onto people down below. Once we catch up to him, we end up fighting him on the Chrysler building, where all we would need to do is web him up and then beat him until he's down. Standard boss fight, to be honest, nothing crazy, 6 out of 10. Next up is a familiar face.
Spiders everywhere. Go back to your corporate masters. No! No! No!
Last time I saw him, he was throwing a tantrum trying to kill our boy J. Jonah Jameson. This time, he is seen as a more tragic villain just trying to escape. Honestly, he's a fat pussy here. I like my Scorpion when he's an asshole, like in Neversoft's iteration. I do see where Treyarch is coming from with this interpretation, and I do think the concept itself can work. We just never really got to see much of his character, so the tragic villain angle they tried going for here just doesn't work for me. His boss fight is pretty good though. His tail is as dangerous here as it was in Neversoft's version, and I think Treyarch did a good job overall with Scorpion, though it could have been better executed.
Pal, but don't worry, we'll get you to a hospital. These things attacked me before. I wonder who's after me. Scorpion? Disappeared.
But did they have to make Spidey an idiot here? Bro, Scorpion isn't a small dude. He is made out of metal. You can practically hear his big ass coming from a mile away. But now is where we get to the big man himself, Norman the Waves Osborn, and decided to use the serum on himself since the company is at jeopardy of going bankrupt now and they couldn't get Spider-Man's blood. His transformation as a Green Goblin is as crazy and out there as it was from the movie.
Mr. Osborn, are you all right?
So the game now takes the parade set piece from the movie and uses it for the next mission in the game. Goblin shows up to get some kills in, but since we're Spider-Man, we can't let that slide. From there, we save MJ, who ends up on one of the parade floats.
Help!
Bro, MJ's always on some bullshit. Like, why isn't your dumbass down with the rest of the people? Anyways, we save our ass, and rather than immediately go after Goblin or prevent any more casualties from happening from Goblin's attacks, we'd rather just stay there and rizz up MJ.
You were great back there.
Thanks. I have to go deal with, you know.
Oh, yeah. Thanks again.
No problem. Grab hold of a rogue balloon anytime. Rescuing damsels is my special.
But we are Spider-Man after all, and we get to the Goblin, and this is where the first boss fight with him begins. And forget what I said about the other boss fights being difficult. All those other bosses we beat feel like training wheels compared to this one. Because this isn't just beating up Gobby and taking him to prison. No, this guy prepared his whole life to try and stop me. Like, holy shit. First of all, we end up fighting in the skies. Okay, typical boss fight. He throws pumpkin bombs. We can lock onto him and even get a few licks in. It's all good so far. But then he starts to run away, damaging objects from buildings. As we fix his damages, we still need to fight him in order to proceed to the next stage of the boss fight. His glider eventually malfunctions, and that's when we have an actual fight inside this building here. This is where I realized that Goblin does not play. He can scrap, and I mean it. Every time I try to get close to him, he counters and slams my ass down. Like, you're a businessman in your 40s. Where did you learn all of this? But even then, this isn't enough, because once we damage him, he ends up using his glider anyways and continues the fight to the skies once again, which leads us to yet another stage of the fight, where we end up in this sort of electrical facility where Goblin uses the environments to hide in and sneak up on us. So then after everything, we finally beat him. But he ends up escaping and tells us that he set up bombs throughout the city, which would explode if we don't stop it. It's a timed level sequence which made me pull my hair out as a kid. I think it took me like 30 tries to beat this level, and it made me stop playing the game for a while. In hindsight, this entire Goblin boss fight is the best of the game so far. It makes Goblin such a threat. And I'll be honest, after years of not playing it and finally beating this level, I loved it.
No more? Thank goodness. I'm gonna have some nasty words for that creep on the glider when I catch him. But first, I'm gonna go somewhere quiet and have a heart attack.
All right, Spider-Man. You've made your choice.
On to the next level. I do want to talk about the Kraven sequence, which unfortunately I never had an Xbox to play this on. I always played this on PlayStation, so I never got to play this section of the game, unfortunately. But I did manage to see it on YouTube, and man, this only makes me want to play it even more. It looks like it could have rivaled Goblin's boss fight considering how well designed it is. From the puzzle-like structure of the traps Kraven laid out in front of us, to us being able to see Kraven's point of view while we control Spidey away from Kraven's sniper shots, to the actual boss fight itself. This level is something I wish I managed to play, and unfortunately I couldn't, so I can't say much about it. But if that isn't enough, the Green Goblin.
Congratulations, Spider-Man. Dealing with you just moved to the top of my to-do list.
You mother. After all this fighting we just did, manages to come back and was even on the lookout for us. This guy is a top tier hater just like his son.
I'm ruined. I have nothing left except Spider-Man.
He saved your life, sir.
He humiliated me by touching me.
So after Goblin finds us, he sends out so much razor bats in front of us that the game decides it would be a best idea to hide from them. Once we successfully do so, we go back home after finding a piece of a broken razor bat and we take it home to get it examined. Then Peter finds it came from Oscorp and we go straight there like we own the place. Our objective in these stealth levels is to get codes from computers around the area. In order to get to the building, we need to stealth our way to the guards. You do have the option to say screw it and just punch your way out of it. However, it's far more difficult as robot securities, yes, robot securities, start coming in to prevent you from going any further. Plus, I prefer stealth any day of the week. Once we get the codes, we meet this guy who has second thoughts on the practices Oscorp is doing involving chemical weapons.
So, what are you guys cooking up here?
I swear I didn't know Oscorp even had a chemical weapons division. You have to believe me.
Chemical weapons? That's a definite no-no. Especially if this is Goblin's one-stop weapon shop.
There's nothing I can do. The research is too heavily protected.
That's where I come in. I'll take care of those chemicals. Just tell me what to do.
It's fairly complicated, so for now, just find one of the control rooms that oversee chemical injections into the central vat. I'll give you a radio so that we can communicate once you get there. Be careful.
Thanks, Doc.
So because we are Spider-Man, we stop what we initially came here to do and decide to help this guy out. This leads us into more stealth levels, and of course, after deciding to help people out, we see ourselves trapped in a room with Mecha Godzilla. And this is where another boss fight begins. In order to beat this Transformer, we need to destroy the shield generators scattered across the room. As we are doing so, there are hundreds of razor bats trying to kill us, because of course there is. So when I tell you I was drenched in sweat playing this boss, I mean I was drenched. It took me multiple tries to beat this boss fight, and it is by far, next to Goblin, the most difficult level of the game. So when I managed to conquer this massive tin can, we get to Osborn's office to find out he has documents on MJ, which implies he's after her. It wouldn't be the first time a supervillain comes after Spidey's girl, huh, Venom?
Surf the web, surf the web.
Shut up, Brock. We don't have time.
So we start booking it outside the building, only to find out that the building is on high alert for us. Like Oscorp is on full lockdown. We got energy walls, robot securities, razor bats, you name it, Oscorp has got it. This then leads us to the final boss of the game.
What a day. What
Tough day at the office, huh? Mine is a killer. Put your heart into those streams, my lovely girl, the better to bait my trap.
Goblin, after successfully stealing MJ away, takes her to the Brooklyn Bridge? I don't know, but that's besides the point. We end up having to save her from Gobby, and this is where the final fight begins. It starts out the same way as the last time we fought him, having to punch him a few times until he gets off his glider, except this time he's buffed up tremendously since. He is stronger now, and he has his glider on autopilot because that thing will come up and try to shoot you and even stab you, so you gotta be careful. We rinse and repeat this process until we beat him, and this is where the game ends.
Mr. Osborn. Why?
So his dumbass gets impaled just like in the movie, except this time Toby ends up, and I'm not even joking, making out with MJ in front of Harry's dead dad right there.
Mary Jane, there's something I have to tell you.
I know, Tiger. You don't have to say.
How crazy do you have to be to make out in front of your best friend's dead corpse? And then only for Tobey Maguire himself to tell me this.
Looks like you're done now. Go outside and play.
Bro, Toby's that dude, bro. I love him. Okay, so Spider-Man 1 PS2, the movie game. What do I think overall? This game is actually way better than it had any right to be. I mean, this is a movie tie-in game. These types of games aren't supposed to be this good. But this Spider-Man game managed to pull it off by having good combat, great but simple stealth sequences, well-designed and memorable boss fights, and a story that not only complements the movie it's based on, but expands upon the world set by the movie and sets itself apart as a standalone game. This game is underrated, and I'm glad I made this video because I didn't think this game was going to be any good. But I'm glad I was wrong. And you want to know what's the best part about all this? Treyarch, those wizards, managed to create a sequel so good, so fun, and dare I say revolutionary, that it made my 5-year-old self at the time fall in love with video games for good. For good! But that's for the next video. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, since I got more videos planned down the line. Please let me know what you guys think down in the comments if you played it, and let me know if it's in your top 5 Spider-Man games, or maybe you dislike it. I would love to know. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.